Welcome to the Your Leadership Legacy podcast. My name is Tina Paulus-Krause, and I'm so excited to bring you this next podcast dedicated to you high performers out there who want to reinvent yourself, reinvent your business, maybe your career, all of it. This podcast is all about being dedicated to transformation and being the best possible leader of yourself and others that you can be in order to create a legacy that lives on. Welcome to Your Leadership Legacy. My name is Tina Paulus-Krause. I am the founder and CEO of True You Teams. And here we go. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Your Leadership Legacy. My name is Tina Paulus-Krause, and I am super excited today because we have the one and only Troy Korsgaden with us here today. You can refer to him as TK. There's lots of fun names that he has. But Troy, I want to hand it over to you to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, thanks for having me, Tina. I'm really excited. Hey, I'm in the insurance business, and I started as an agent, like a lot of people in our business. And I was given a book of business when I first started called Phone Book, and I worked by myself for 7 years, right? Mm-hmm. And so I'm really excited to be on the program today because I've had an evolution, just a constant changes throughout my career. All have been mostly positive, right? And but everything changed for me in my 7th year in the business when I hired my first employee. My manager begged me for 7 years, "You got to hire somebody, kid. You got to hire somebody." And I said, I just can't afford to hire somebody. He said, "You can't afford not to." He gave me all the right answers, right? Mm-hmm. But I just never did it until a light bulb went off and I hired my first employee. And that person became a profit center. We like to say everybody's got to be a profit center. If you're not, you're a cost center. And luckily, that person became a profit center. And so I was able to hire another employee and then another and another. They didn't all work out, but I'm fortunate to be sitting here today with you. The evolution from being an agent to being a consultant to carriers and companies from the United States and around the world.
Right. That's amazing. So I love how you dove right into evolution because leadership has evolved over time. So talk to us about your leadership and how your leadership has evolved over time in your career.
Yeah, if I could go back, some of the big errors that I made, and not just in judgment, just errors, I just went with the flow. I used this method, and I like to say this method doesn't work anymore. And it did for me, right, back in the 80s. Yeah. And it worked in the 90s. But until I really started putting a rigor around everything, the systems and the processes and the thought behind why I'm doing what I'm doing, it really took off after that because it was really a blessing and luck for me in the beginning because everything just seemed to fall in place and I have natural instincts on leadership. But I really hadn't thought it all out. And I think that that's really important. You got to think it all out.
Yeah. So how do you see leadership different? Like there's a lot of stuff going on in our world, right? We're super connected. Technology is going like crazy. All this stuff, all this noise that's happening. So how does that change the landscape of leadership?
So again, leadership is on purpose, right? And a friend of mine, Sam Chan, Dr. Sam Chan, he's a consultant to our family. He's a friend. And he says, everybody's going for your time, right? If you're a leader, right? Everybody's attracted to you for that. That's my words. And he says, there's one thing to give time and there's another to invest time. And that really hit me, man. I mean, because like if I'm coaching somebody individually, I'm making an investment in that person and maybe an investment for me too, right? Because I may reap the rewards of that. Or maybe I'm making an investment because that person's going to make the world a better place. And that maybe helps me with my leadership legacy that you talk about, right? And so, it's just really focusing on doing the right things at the right time for the right reasons.
Yeah, definitely. So what does it mean to you to leave a leadership legacy? You work with people all over the world. You work with individuals. You work with teams. How are you, Troy, leaving a leadership legacy?
Yeah, foundationally, I think I've done it. If I bounced out of this world today, I think I've left a legacy, but I haven't left the legacy I want to leave, right? He not busy being born is busy dying, as Bob Dylan said. So you always got to be growing. So in those errors in judgment that I made, letting it slide, just taking whatever came to me, or just being satisfied if I got into a rut and just allowed myself to stay there, then I left a legacy, but not the one I could have left, right? And so right now I'm looking back, and my whole purpose in life is not to leave a legacy. But hey, when I turn the lights out for Troy, I want to make sure that somebody said, hey, he impacted a lot of individuals, a lot of business, a lot of people personally, in a lot of different ways, not just in one way.
Yeah, definitely. So what do you think, if I'm a leader and I'm watching this series, what do you think is the toughest part for a leader in today's environment?
Yeah, great question. I think the toughest part is dealing with the pain. The pain of maybe I was helping. I'll give you an example of a recent one. I had somebody that I helped my sister with. I mentored the person. Perfect candidate. We hired him, the right person. He did all the things we asked him to do. I mean, all the benchmarks, because we benchmark everything. And he met all of those quotas, benchmarks, and he had the right attitude. He wanted to grow. And we got to the end of the 6 months, and all of the benchmarks were made. The marketplace just wasn't going to pay off, right? And it wasn't his fault. So we had to part ways. And that is painful. It's one of the things that's painful, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And as my sister and I read this book called Necessary Endings, and it was by Henry Cloud. And we had to apply that necessary ending. We had to prune off the rose, as he describes in the book. Even though it's a beautiful rose, it had to be trimmed off so next year we could have another blooming rose, right? So
Yeah.
that's painful when you have to part ways with people, good or bad.
Right. Yeah. Because you've invested your time and energy and all of that into them. And I mean, as a leader, I think when we talk about leaving a leadership legacy, it's building other leaders, right? Who go out into the world and then build other leaders who build other leaders. And so we spend that much in time and investment. What is the biggest thing you see what's the biggest mistake you see leaders making?
I see it within myself. So it's easy for me, right? Because we see things in mirrors. And if I'm honest with myself, and I'm more honest with myself now than I used to be, it's the fact that I talk too much, right? And because I always want to tell you what I think. And so you're asking me a question. I'm trying to figure out what the end of the question is so I can get my answer in and have it be twice as long. Yeah, we all do it, right? So I think that's the biggest. I learned from a leader. I did a consulting job that lasted 3 years. And it was behind the scenes with a big carrier. And I got paid a lot of money, but I got paid more from learning from this one man, because I watched him and how it wasn't that he didn't contribute to the conversation, but he always waited until the end of the conversation, or he would have conversation starters, not his opinion on everything. So he gathered up all the people's opinion. And then he said, this is what I'm hearing, and this is what I believe, and here are the next steps for us to move this transformation, or move this product, or move this forward. What an awesome experience to learn from somebody. Keep your mouth shut, right?
Yeah, because that's so different. If we think about leadership and kind of how it's evolved, and how I know how I used to be as a leader, leadership in the past has been very much fix and do and tell and just do it because I said it kind of thing. And as we move forward, and like these leaders that you're talking about now, these are the leaders that are rising to the top, and it's because they're involving teams. So talk to us a little bit about how you've seen the evolution of this is individual accountability, and now going into the future of work and the future of leadership, how it's way more about the team.
Yeah, team orient, you got to be team oriented, right? Because you can't do everything by yourself. There's only 24 hours in a day. But I watch my brothers and sisters. They're a great example. They're great leaders, right? One of my brothers and I have a restaurant here in town for 13 years. That's one of the hardest businesses there is. He's got over 50-something employees. And man, it's like herding cats, right? It's a different thing. And so his style is to get in there with them, right? I think that's important as a team member. You can't just say, hey, I don't want to take the trash out. If the trash needs to be taken out, even though he owns the business, he gets in there and goes, hey man, we got to keep looking at this cleanliness. That's important, right?
Yeah.
My other older brother works with me and he helps book me, right? And helps me with my consulting business and works with carriers as a relation guy. And I learned from his leadership skills. That is to constantly be talking to people and listening to what their needs are. And again, leading by example. He's not trying to sell something to his team or sell something to the people he's dealing with. And then I'll take my other two sisters, which are in our business, the insurance business, right? Highly successful, leading teams of, one of them over 20, the other one over 12, maybe 15. And they just do an awesome job, again, by being in the trench. But I'm going to take theirs a step further. They delegate appropriately, right? And they inspect what they expect. And they set the goals, but they don't use this method, right? They make sure that everything's happening that should be happening.
Yeah, I love, and I'm like looking for your book right now. So what I love, so you're talking, a lot of what you're talking about is the operations, right? Sure. The operations of the business and systems and processes and stuff like that, which brings me to your book, Discussion Partner. So I wanted to make sure that I gave you a chance to talk about that. Like, what was the inspiration behind this book, and tell us a little bit about it.
Yeah, and I think it does apply to leadership, right? Because whenever you go through a transformational change in a industry like we're going through, and that's what the book's about. There's a big tsunami of change coming, and everybody wants to know, how do I deal with it? How do I retool? How do I reposition? And in my mind, right, you may have a team of 3 people or 30 people, but maybe they're not going to be the right team for a year from now, 2 years from now, 3 years from now. Hard decisions, right? And so as you assess where you're at as a leader, the book talks about, okay, do I have the right people on the team? Are they going to be able to provide unrivaled service? Because we're moving from a product peddler environment in insurance to an advisory only, okay? Eventually, that's all it's going to be. So what is the differentiator? It's service. Giving people such great service, they come to you for everything, even things you don't sell, right?
Right, yeah.
And so you're the gateway to all things. Well, to wrap your head around that as an owner, and then to wrap your head around it, if you've been in working on the team and you're making a good salary and everything seems to be going along great, well, you know what? That's how it was going when Montgomery Ward's went out of business, right? When Sears started to have trouble. And when Amazon came, it changed the landscape too. So, you know what? We can't have that happen to us. I made a quote today for somebody, and it was, the horse and buggy, the relevance started to go down, but that didn't mean the need for transportation went away, right? So that's where we're at. But you got to lead people from where we're at today to where we're going to be a year from now, 3 years from now. And I believe it's not 5 years anymore. I think it's 3. I think it's that quick.
I think it's here, right?
Yeah, I do too.
I think it's here. So we both have backgrounds in the insurance industry. Yeah. As I hear you talk, as I read this book, I think it's bigger and broader than just the insurance industry. I think it's kind of business in general these days, right? And so as you work with leaders and agency owners and business owners and all that in your consultancy and in your work and all of that, what is holding them back? Like, why are these business owners not understanding that we have to move and change along with kind of where we're going?
Sure, I think it's human nature, right? And so if I'm speaking to a group of executives, or I'm speaking to a group of agents or a group of team members, there are people that are sitting in the front row and they're taking notes, and they're going to take those notes and they're going to go back within 72 hours and they're going to be executing to the things that are important to them in their business, right? But the majority of people are going to go, man, I know this all makes sense. I just don't know where to start. Or I'm going to wait to see if it really happens, Yeah. And I'll give you an example I give in the book. Everybody thought that when the ATM machine came out, right, that banking was dead, okay? And that people would just be dealing with a machine. But hey, when you inherit 300 grand, You don't go to the ATM machine and go, hey man, here's my 300, okay? Or if you inherit $1 million or you win the lottery, whatever, there's still a need for personal bankers, right? And so you apply that same thing and you go, it makes sense to me. I'm sitting in the front row or I'm in the back, and I can't wait, right? Because if I wait, I'm going to get run over. And so I need to do something. And I used to say the way forward was incremental change. I don't say that anymore. I think you need to draw a line in the sand and say, hey, look, I'm in this business. I want to stay in this business. And if I do, I got to bring more value to the people I do business with. How as a team are we going to deliver that? And I bring my team in, no matter who they are, whether it's a carrier, whether it's agents, and I don't care who I'm working with, but I like working with leadership because if they're not on board, it isn't going to happen, right? So their agents aren't going to get the message the way they want them to.
Right. Exactly. So if I'm that person that's sitting back and just watching and saying, it's just a fad, it's not going to last long. Like, what is but really my fear underneath that is I don't know where to start. What's the one piece of advice that you would give somebody on where do I even start?
I learned this. I sat in a talk and I listened to someone. I'd give credit where credit is due, but there are no new antiques, right? So I don't know where to give this credit.
Right.
But the phrase was, I've been using it for over 10 years, the law of 72. When you get information, and if you don't take action on it within 72 hours, you're never going to. It's a use it or lose it type of situation. So in my live coaching with executives or my live coaching with agents, brokers, and firms, I say, write this down, the law of 72. Within 72 hours, go back, get with your team. Don't blow the whole office up. Don't blow the whole carrier up that now is worth $20 billion, $30 billion, and has a history of 70, 80, 100 years. You don't do that. You build on what you've got. So within 72 hours, you make a date with yourself on the calendar. A lot of people say, how do you do so many things so well and you're consistent? Because I'm not perfect, but I am consistent, right? It's because I make a date with myself. So you and I had a date for this, right? Yep. Did everything go perfectly? Now we had some technical problems getting the video up from my end, right? I got a new computer. But Emily, my assistant, planned everything in advance. So we started connecting a half an hour before. But we made a date with ourselves on the issue. And you were the most important issue. But also, when they hang up here from our call, maybe they got a nugget here, 1 nugget, 2 nuggets, 3 nuggets, and maybe you get 10. Go onto the calendar for 15 minutes and make a date with nobody talking to you to think about that leadership issue, where we're going to go. And then you start making the plans and execution. Ideas are great, but without execution, it's delusion, right?
Yeah, definitely. And with so much noise and so much going and how fast we're moving and all that kind of stuff, we have to be intentional with our growth. And I think that was part of the inspiration for this series, right? Because things are moving so fast in today's environment. And I know I was really guilty of going, I just got to get through this day. I just got to get through this week. I just got to get through this month. And then you wake up how many years later and you realize that you haven't been intentional in doing what you really want to do. And so I understand that you have a free gift for people. So would you talk to us about your free gift?
Sure. My publisher allows me to give out complimentary copies of the book in an e-format. And if you would like to get that, just email Emily, EMILY, at Korsgaden.com. That's KORSGADEN.com. And just put complimentary book in the subject line. And then she will reply and she'll attach it to it. And you are more than welcome to share that e-copy with your team. If you're a listener, this is something that I encourage you, as Jim Rohn used to say, and I had the good fortune of meeting him, the book you don't read can't help you.
Right. So true. So true. Absolutely. I've watched you for a long time, right? We've been in the insurance business. I've been 20 years. I know you've probably been a little bit longer than that. And so I've watched you along the way, and I'm just so impressed of your servant leadership, who you are, how you show up in the world. the good that you're doing and that you're bringing. And I really, really appreciate your time on this show. My last question for you is, how do you, like, as I've been watching you, you're constantly motivated, right? You're constantly bringing stuff up. You're always starting conversations. How do you, Troy, on a daily basis, stay motivated every day?
Thank you. For the most part, I am. It's not fake. I am motivated. I get especially when I'm with a group of leaders, whatever they're doing, I get motivated. I'm excited. So it's the people I'm around, right?
Yeah.
If you're around boring, loser, not fun, bad people, you're going to become one of them, man. It's the law of large numbers, right?
Right.
And so I've made my mistakes. I've associated with the wrong people. But for the most part, my day is filled with people like you. You know, whether we see each other at LAMP, at Gamma, whether we see each other in a business situation or personally, you attract what you are, right? Mm-hmm. And you're a good person. You're the kind of person I want to be around. So you get energy from that. That's one answer. The other answer is what's going into my head. You know, I've recommitted back to reading again. You know, I used to read 4 books a month. I don't know why I quit. The last couple of years, I wasn't doing it, right? And so now I'm recommitted to reading 4 books a month, and they're on different subjects. So the things I read, and, you know, I could go on, but I really think you said it, it's intentional. I love that word. It really is intentional. So to stay motivated, you don't want to be a goofball. But you do want to think about it and what is going to feed me to keep me motivated, because that's one of the key ingredients to success.
Yeah, absolutely. So after the readers read your book, what is the next best book that they should read?
Oh, wow. You know, given this conversation, I'll go back to Dr. Sam Chan. He wrote a book called Leadership Pain. I like that book. He's got a new one coming out, and I'll share that with you so you can share it with your group here. But yeah, I would say that would be the one. It's not an insurance book, but he's like I said, he's a great guy. And that one, I've given away a ton of copies of that book. Sam Chan, Dr. Sam, Chand.
Okay, awesome. Where, if I'm listening to this and I think you're amazing, where do I find you? Where do I connect with you?
You can find me at www.korsgaden.com. Very simple website, but it's informational. It tells you about what I do. If you need resources, just email Emily, whether it's a video, whether it's a script, or whether it's what we call talk paths to talk to people. Just send it on and just mention the fact that you're a friend of Tina, and that will help us to know that we're giving it to the right person.
Awesome. Good. Yeah. Awesome. Amazing. All right. It's crazy how fast the time goes, right? But our time is done. And so I just want to thank you so much for being a part of this show. Super excited for your interview to come out and for people to get your wisdom, definitely. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Tina.
You bet. All right. That wraps us up, you guys. So your leadership legacy, we will be back tomorrow with another amazing interview. So join us then. Thanks, everyone. Bye. My name is Tina Paulus-Krause, and I thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed the show. Check out our programs and events at trueyouteams.com. And until next time, make it an amazing day.